Who is your real-life superhero? I was 17 when the doctors told me my kidney was failing. One minute I was planning for college. The next I was hooked to a dialysis machine 3 times a week. The hospital became my second home. White walls, beeping machines, and the constant smell of antiseptic that never quite masked the underlying scent of sickness. That's where I met Earl. He wasn't assigned to my floor, but he'd stop by during his rounds. The first time, he just nodded while emptying my trash. The second time, he commented on the book I was reading. Tolkien, huh? Good choice. The best stories are the ones where ordinary folks do extraordinary things. I remember thinking it was odd that a janitor in his 60s would know about Lord of the Rings. Shows how judgmental teenagers can be. Earl started visiting regularly, sometimes for 5 minutes, sometimes longer if his schedule allowed. He'd bring me newspapers with the crossword puzzles only partially completed. Thought you might want to finish what I started, he'd say with a wink. My parents were struggling, emotionally and financially. Dad was working double shifts to cover the medical bills, and Mom was splitting her time between me and my younger siblings. The guilt I felt watching them deteriorate was almost worse than my physical pain. One particularly bad day, after learning I'd been bumped down the transplant list, I completely broke down after my parents left. Earl found me sobbing into my pillow. "Hey now, what's all this about?" he asked, setting his mop aside. I told him everything. How I was ruining my family, how I'd never go to college, how I was just so tired of fighting. "You know what Superman's real superpower is?" Earl asked. "Super strength," I mumbled. "Nope, it's hope. Without hope, he's just a guy in tights." I couldn't help but laugh through my tears. "You'd think I'm joking," he continued, "but I'm dead serious. Hope is what gets us through the impossible." What I didn't know then was that Earl had lost his wife to cancer 3 years prior, or that he'd raised 4 kids as a single dad before that after his first wife left, or that he was working at the hospital past retirement age to help put his grandkids through college. I learned all this gradually, in those quiet moments between his shifts. He never presented his stories as lessons, but they were. 4 months into my hospital stay, Earl didn't show up for 3 days. I asked about him, but nobody seemed to know anything. On the 4th day, he appeared, moving slower than usual. "Where were you?" I demanded, surprising myself with how worried I'd been. "Had a little heart situation," he said casually. "Nothing to fuss about." Later, a nurse told me he'd had a minor heart attack but came back to work against doctor's orders. "Why would you do that?" I asked him the next day. "Some things are more important than rest," he said, glancing at me. "Like finishing what you start." 2 weeks later, they found me a matching kidney. The surgery was successful, and after recovery, I was finally discharged. Earl was there on my last day, pushing my wheelchair to the exit where my parents waited.